The new Adidas F50 Plus in this box carries over all of the same technology on paper that the previous generation, except one major change, and in fact a lot of little minor changes. And I want to show you in today's video what these are like to play in, and of course what the performance characteristics are like. Let's jump into it. So this is a Adidas football box, all black. This is their brand new, or I guess not brand new, but design language with the 3 Adidas stripes here. Adidas football logoing there on that side. And then in terms of the sizing, I went with my usual Adidas size, so a US 9, UK 8.5, Euro 42 2/3, and a Japan 27 centimeters. If you guys are interested in a free size guide, you can go down and the link down below in the description has all of the most recent boots, and that will be going away pretty soon as I'm switching to more of the athlete branding side of content. Oh my days, have a look at those. So this is the Purple Rush, Cloud White, and Lucid Lemon colorway. This comes, of course, with a string bag. I am bummed that they don't have those mesh string bags anymore because I think those are way better. This does have a very fun retro F50 vibe to it, which is really cool. That F50 logoing there. Decent string bag, pretty nice. And you also get the comfort insoles like you did on every other top-end Elite F50 model. The Spark Fusion has them, the regular laced edition, the laced F50, and now the F50 Plus. And here we go. Holy, those are lightweight. Wow. New upper as well, which is still technically fiber touch, but yeah, wow. These are wild looking. I'm not sure I love the way these look, to be honest, but they do look pretty epic. And to be honest, regardless of however I end up feeling about how these perform, I am going to stand on what I say right now. And the thesis of this video is this is how you do a Halo model. Nike, take notes, okay? Puma's already done it with their carbon edition of the Ultra. A couple other brands have done it as well. Adidas is now doing it. Nike, you need to do something better with the Superfly. This, you've listened to consumers, you've gone backwards ever so slightly to a boot that everyone really loved with the Speed Portal Plus. And this is really cool. I don't even, it doesn't even matter how it fits my feet. I think this is going to be just one of those boots that's just epic to look at, like the Ultra Carbon is. So thank you, Adidas. Okay, here we go. Let's get the other one out of the box, and then we'll talk full tech spec rundown, and of course, get into how these are going to be out on pitch. Now, in terms of this upper, so on paper, again, as I mentioned before, on paper, the specs are still Fiber Touch upper, Sprint Web technology, or Sprint Web 3D texturing to it. It's got that synthetic lining to it as well. The Light Strike Pro element here, which is the same foam that they use in my favorite daily trainer and one of my favorite race shoes of all time in terms of running shoes, which is really cool. So it's their running shoe tech. And then this is, of course, the Sprint Web 360 Plus stud pattern, which is genetically identical to their normal Sprint Frame 360, except it's got that sort of double layer sole plate with the Light Strike Pro in between. So on paper, it should be the same boot, but just with laces. And unfortunately with this one, or I guess fortunately, this is actually has some really interesting different things to it. So first of all, this upper, this Fiber Touch upper is a lot thinner. It's actually, you can actually see in between those layers. So it's got this internal suede cage to it, very similar to speed boots we've seen in the past from Adidas. A standard U-throat tongue, which is an interesting choice given that they do have the ability to do the regular F50 Elite compression fit tunnel system. The heel area feels genetically identical to the rest of the F50s. It's not the best in the world, but it'll do, I think, for the sake of this one. And then they've gone for literally pencil laces. I don't understand why brands need to do this. These are so thin. They're gonna rip so easily. So there's the standard U-throat tongue you can see there. And then here's a good view of the inside of the boots. They've got a very thin upper to them with that internal cage, but it feels pretty robust. I know people in other videos have said this, but it very much feels like Speed Portal Plus and the current generation F50 Elite sort of combined into one. It is quite a soft upper as well, so that's really interesting. So I'm hoping that although it's not going to stretch all that much, I do wonder if this boot is actually going to fit me a little bit better, in the same way that the Speed Portal Plus actually fit me better than the regular Speed Portal did, and the Speed Portal laceless. So this is a really interesting football boot. It's incredibly lightweight. It's got kind of a dumb color. They've just reused the same one. I wish they would have gone for something a little bit more exciting. Even doing this color, like a light strike with black F50 accents, I think would have been absolutely sick. Partially because the running shoes that I have are basically this kind of Volt yellow colorway all over, and then it's got these beautiful big black 3 stripes, and they just look super striking. They look epic as a pair of running shoes. And I kind of wish they would have copied that same color scheme on this one. Needless to say, though, I am really excited to try these on. This is probably one of the most excited I've been about an Adidas speed boot in a while, other than like not counting the F50 leather remakes. This is actually super exciting to me, and I don't know why, but I really, really am pumped to try these on. So without further ado, let's jump into the on-feet portion of the video, tell you guys how sizing is, how they fit and feel, and of course, how they perform for ballers out there. All right, fam, welcome to the pitch. It's a beautiful day out today. I'm excited to be here with the F50 Plus, which I'm actually really excited about these, because the reason being is the sole plate isn't my favorite, but the changes that they've made to the upper that make it a little bit more Speed Portal Plus-esque, I think will actually suit my foot shape a little bit better. So without further ado, here we go. These are a very thin pair of football boots. Oh yeah, just as I expected. Yeah, see, these fit very similarly to F50 Plus, Speed Portal Plus, except they are slightly stiffer in the upper. It's a little more like laminated paper as opposed to just regular paper thin. And then these laces are absolutely bullshit because they are so thin, it's like you can't even tie them because they're so thin. Why do they do this? For the sake of 1 goddamn gram. And I know there were some people who in the comment section of the Instagram post that I put up about these, people were going all up in arms about the fact that the side here kind of bubbles. That's what happens when a boot doesn't fit your foot absolutely perfectly out of the box, and it's a synthetic upper that doesn't stretch. It's not rocket science, but some of you guys are pretty thick, I think, and don't realize that like not everyone has a perfectly funnel-shaped foot. So that's okay. I forgive you, but also, holy moly. Here we go. Yeah, I'm gonna probably pretty much wow, I can't speak English, can I? I'm going to enjoy these, I reckon, because I actually liked the Speed Portal Plus despite some of the durability issues, and I slipped around in those a little bit too much than I would have liked, whereas these ones have sort of the downside. This is why I think this boot is perfect for what the F50 should be, which is a super, super lightweight boot with a very thin upper. It doesn't have to stretch all that much, but it's got a really barefoot touch on the ball. And that's one of those things that I love, because this is like what the raw essence of a speed boot should be. And I think the regular F50 is too stiff, and the F50 Plus that was before this didn't have frickin' laces. So here we go. So just getting a little bit of warm up going and kind of to test a little bit this Light Strike Pro element, which you can really feel running forward, and if you stay on your toes, because it sort of pushes your foot up. The one thing that I did say earlier in this video during the unboxing period, I'm getting massive gapey holes on the side of my ankle area, and I wish I would have brought the lace puncher, because this is going to be a miserable session if my heel continues to rub like this. All right, so one of the ironies though about that heel slippage is because I've got so much lockdown in the forefoot and have such like a good kind of feel for the ball. It's like everything from here forward feels fantastic. Everything from here back feels super sloppy. And that's like a weird, especially with how aggressive and like bouncy the sole plate is. it's a little bit of a juxtaposition. All right, a little bit of warm up for the adductors. This is where with the regular F50 Plus, I had a little bit of an issue. So as I'm taking a touch, no problem. As I'm shooting the ball, particularly if it's more of like a pass kind of whipped shot, that area in the knuckle of my forefoot here, because there was that extra Light Strike Pro, felt really unbalanced and awkward. So I'm interested to see with the thinness of the upper, oh, hello, if that was more of a pass, so that doesn't really count. We're gonna do that one more time just to get that first impression. But I think here, like that type of shot, that actually doesn't feel that bad. I think part of the reason why I found it such an issue with the laceless model was because, was simply because the laceless model had the same upper as the normal F50, which of course was not one of my favorites. Now, if I'm considering a boot in this space that's really thin, it's got sort of that feeling towards it, I want something that's super, super balanced and very consistently thin across the upper, which these ones actually accomplish. So in all honesty, I think this is one of those boots that performs very, very well striking the ball. And I gotta say, I really enjoy these. I'm just frustrated by the fact that my heel is slipping out of the back of these boots. So with a little bit more of an aggressive shot, I'm hoping to get kind of, hello. Yeah, if I didn't totally screw that shot up. The feeling of an upper like this that's got a little bit of that extra pizzazz with the sprint web texturing on it, but it's super thin, actually makes for a really enjoyable playing experience. And I think this is where a boot, yeah, see, there we go, a little bit of knuckle action. That's why I love thin boots like this, because you get this very barefoot and kind of visceral raw feeling. And again, I actually think this is the best F50 that Adidas makes. But the massive caveat here is it's got a freaking terrible lacing system. The laces suck, the tongue is too thin, and the heel area is left gaping wide open. All right, just some technique work here. Get some really good like touch out of the foot and shoot. Yeah, just like that. You could actually use this as a crossing drill if you wanted to. Ideally, I'm trying to hit like the upper, kind of the upper corner into the side netting. But you could theoretically like sort of hit like that as well if you were trying to hit crosses like on the ground or sort of knee height, so that your striker has to, that's like a harder ball to defend and to attack. But the striker is able to get onto it pretty effectively there, especially if it hits the ground first. I digress. Anyway, very, very good. I just, the heel is bugging me. All right, here we go. Right side. We'll get, actually I'm gonna widen you a little bit. There we go. All right, here we go. Nice, love that. I really like this type of drill because it's just, you get that like really nice technique going. Except for that, which is obviously not as great technique, but that's okay. We live and we learn. Striking surface with this, fantastic. I love the new kind of thinner upper. I think it's awesome. Let's do one more here. And I do think that the fit, the sizing, the forefoot width, despite these being probably a little bit more lower volume than what most wide-footed players like myself would theoretically want in a boot, I think if you are looking for one of the thinnest boots on the market, these are actually really fun to play in. And I'm thinking at the end of this video, there we go. At the end of this video, I might actually go into the studio and poke a hole in here and then go out to the backyard just to like show you what a runner's knot with these looks like. Because right now, everything about this boot is really fun and enjoyable to play in, except for that heel area. Right, a little bit of free kick action. This is a great test for that Light Strike Pro element. Now, what's interesting is over the course of playing here and making all sorts of cuts and sharp movements, the Light Strike Pro, I think with the lockdown of the laces, feels so much more natural and so much better than it did on the laceless model. And that is, oh, hello.
through the wall, right? Like that's where that goes. It is natural to think like, okay, once you have laces, the lockdown's a lot better. So of course, that if your foot is actually secure to the bottom of the boot, i.e. the sole plate, you're gonna have a lot more enjoyment in the way that sort of relationship between your foot and the sole plate functions, which is absolutely the case with these. I think this boot really, I should say, this sole plate really needed a laced upper, because it makes the enjoyment of sort of the bounce of this light strike and sort of the way that it really pushes you and propels you forward, excuse me, it makes for a much more enjoyable experience. Now, God, I've been hitting post all day today. Now I think from the standpoint of, you know, why pros don't wear this model, I think it could be a couple different things. Now, would I choose this model if, let's say, it came in the Light Strike Pro edition and like their normal, the normal sole plate? I'd probably pick the normal sole plate. But in terms of special plus model vibe, like this bounce and the propulsion you feel from it is pretty fun. All right, guys, wrapping up the initial playtest of the F50 Plus. I feel like I've been a broken record this entire session, which is to say that without even finishing the conclusion, we are just gonna take these stupid ass laces out of this boot. Oh my God, these laces suck. They're so thin. There's too much lace bite because they're so small, and they just are not awesome. I'm gonna put a new pair of laces in this one, and I'm also gonna put a new pair of laces in this one. I'm also gonna punch a new hole in it as well, because boy, oh boy, it feels like, what's funny to me with a lot of boots these days is it feels like the designers of these boots were like, let's make everything awesome except for two really stupid, obvious pieces of the boot. And for me, the tongue is okay. It's a little flimsy. It's whatever. They wanted to make it lightweight. Okay, fine. Thicker laces that just actually complement the way that this upper feels. And then I need an extra lace hole. Outside of that, honest to God, this boot is really fun to play in. Although the Light Strike Pro isn't necessarily my favorite in terms of aggressive stud patterns, I'd much rather, or in terms of aggressive kind of forefoot propulsion, I'd much rather play in something like this compared to, for instance, the Ultra Carbon, which is just too much. This sort of strikes that balance of really nice kind of bouncy sensation on feet, a little bit more unique than the normal F50 and the Air Zoom and everything else, but it still has this sort of robustness that I think a lot of people are looking for, because the snapback in this forefoot is very good. It's one of the best on the market, I think, probably period, outside of that Carbitex, or excuse me, the carbon insert from the Puma Ultra Carbon, which is just unwearable, I think, for most people, particularly if you play on AG. Whereas this stud pattern actually works okay on AG, but this is quite an aggressive, I mean, that is really stiff. So it's just something that you're gonna have to kind of deal with. I just wish they had done a better job securing the ankle and the heel area so that players like myself could take advantage of this extra propulsion that you get from this Light Strike Pro, which, if I haven't mentioned before, well, I know I've mentioned it before, but this Light Strike Pro is the same material that is in the bottom of their Evo Pro SL, Evo SL running shoes, which are some of my favorite daily trainers and like kind of up-tempo trainers on the market in terms of running shoes. It's that same material. So I really rate this material. It's just a matter of like, this was so close to being unbelievably excellent and better than every other F50 on the market. It's just not quite there yet. So I'm gonna make some modification and see what happens. Hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. As always, be awesome, take care. See y'all in the next video.